Hey everybody, welcome back to Day 3 Breakfast with Bob from 70.3 World Championships in beautiful Taupo. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by HOKA, Fly Human Fly, Master Spas, SFuels, Right Fuel, Right Time, Deboer Wetsuits, Quintana, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, we have not chatted with her in a couple of years. Jodie Stimpson joins us, and it is such a treat to get to chat with you again. How you doing?
Yeah, it's a treat being here. It's good to be back on the start line, to be honest. It's definitely been a while. This is my first 70.3 Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's been a hard couple of years. So it's super nice to have got back onto the start line this year, and to have qualified here was, to be honest, I didn't think I would. So it's very special to be here.
Yes, and you have a very special helmet, which I have helmet envy right now. So it's beautiful. And anybody you pass is just going to drop out immediately going, I'm not worthy. I don't even know why I bothered coming. So take us through because you designed this.
I did. So there's the England Lion, and on this side is Ariti, is my managing company, and then CES is Wheels, and then Hayward's is a transport company back home.
Okay.
And then the most special bit of the helmet, I used to be your angel, now you're mine, which is obviously for my dad, and the tattoo that's on
the tattoo on your back.
Yeah.
That is so. So Dad is with you wherever you're racing.
He always is. Always is.
It's, everybody has a special relationship with parents, but for you, it goes beyond that. Dad was such a huge part of your life. When Dad passed, how, like you said, it's been a struggle this last few years.
Oh yeah, I'm never going to be that same person without him. And it's taken, and still is. It's a daily battle.
Right.
He was every part of my life. It's triathlon is an individual sport, but it's so not in another breath, because there's so many people that are behind you that make it possible for you to be on that start line. And my mum and dad and my sister are the key to that. And they are my foundation. And, there's a big piece of that not here anymore.
Right. And, I mean, you started in the sport when you were how old?
Well, I was 8 years old. And I remember there was, I was lucky to grow up in the Alistair and Jonny, and we were part of something called the Milk Series back in the UK.
That's right, the Milk Series. Yeah.
So I was very lucky to be a part of that era, and to kind of grow up and be amongst the triathlon and see how it's developed is brilliant.
It's very cool. And watching, being there when Alistair was just getting going, did you have a sense of how good this guy could be?
Oh, he was always good.
He was
always good.
Even as junior, he was.
Oh yeah, and he just always had that, fighting mentality, and kind of go until you blow and just chuck everything in it. That's why he's won the Olympics.
Exactly. Yeah. What always hit me was the 2008 Olympics when he went off the front.
Yep.
And it's like, wait, who's this guy? Who is going to? And to me, that's always been something that matters.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about when I first met this with Magnus Dietlef, and they're not afraid of the moment. They're not afraid to go to the front, and that was Alistair.
I think in one way that's the addictive bit, though. It's everyone has limits that you think that you have for yourself, and that's the addictive bit when you break through those limits.
Right.
And I think that when you race championship races, when you race races, it's breaking through those limits that brings you back to see, okay, I passed that one. What's the next one I can do?
Right.
And then that feeling of when you succeed, it just draws you back. I think that's the element of triathlon. There's always another limit that you can try and break.
And the tough part is when it's such a solo sport. You're out there on your own, which gives you way too much time to think, right? It's not like you're playing soccer or something. You're reacting to a ball and you can forget about what's going on in your life. It's like it's always there.
Always. I think triathlon is life, is your life when you're into it. And I think that, there's obviously a certain amount of balance that you need, but ultimately there's kind of no balance at the same breath.
No.
Because triathlon is 24/7. If you're not swim, bike, run, gymming, then you're thinking about it, and you're kind of thinking about, you know, the next day, the next session, and it's 7 days a week. Like, it's constant. But I love it.
Well, yeah, because it is overwhelming, but at the same time, it's overwhelming in a good way because it's something that you can draw on with whatever else you do in your life. Yeah.
I think ultimately, if you didn't love it, then
why are you here?
Exactly, why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? So, Clash Miami. I think that's the last time we saw each other.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that like 21? That was
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
And it's you and Lucy Charles Barkley, and you win that race. That was.
It's one of my claim to fame.
Right. That
Yeah.
was the last time we saw each other, and you had just a spectacular day. It was one of those things where you thought, okay, Lucy's going to go run away, and Jodie went right by her, and I was like, oh, over.
I mean, Lucy's one of those, you know, heroes of the sport.
Absolutely.
What she's done, and she's been extremely dominant. And for me to say I got her on that day, it was, I mean, I'm taking it. I will take it. But it also was a great race to have because I got that battle of what you would seemingly put onto a short course.
Right.
But now 70.3 in the longer distances, you're getting more and more of these battles that...
Yes, you are.
It's exciting, it's gripping, and I think that definitely short course is going more into 70.3 because it's getting faster.
And T100.
Yeah,
it's all that.
It's all that you can't. People used to think that to go to the long course, then you would get slower, and it's just not. It's not. You have to run just as fast as what you would for a 10K of what you're running for, but you just got to do it to 21.
Right.
Like, and the powers that these girls are putting on the bike is another level. And the game is so high at the minute, and I think that's really exciting for the sport.
Well, and it used to be very few people were in wind tunnels. Very few people really knew the science of nutrition and what they needed to do. Now everybody does, right? I remember just looking at the guys for Kona and just going back in a day. If somebody swam 50, if somebody rode 4:15 to 4:20, if somebody ran 2:45 to 2:50, they were a player.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's 47, it's 4:03, it's 2:38. I'm like, oh my God, it's changed so much.
I think it shows that triathlon is becoming professional. It's becoming more of a professional sport.
Right.
And it makes the sport professional. The individuals have to be professional to be successful. And that's great for triathlon from where it started.
Right. Well, and also I think what PTO and T100 did was, people are winning $210,000 for the series. And then in the Ironman Pro Series, same thing, $200,000 to win. And those races are still up for grabs this weekend, right? There's nothing as final in terms of the final numbers.
And I think that's what really shows how amazing someone like Kat Matthews has been this year.
She did both.
She's done both. Like, she hasn't just picked one, and
No.
she set this goal at the beginning of the year, and she said, why can't I do both?
I can kick home 70 in one and maybe 200 in the other.
And I think at the beginning of the year, everyone was like, you're mad. Like, you're not going to do it. And even I looked at the schedule and I was like, oh, okay. But it just shows what a class act she is, and, what great of a year she had, even with stumbling blocks at the beginning of the year.
Right, yeah.
And I think that having all of these series up for grabs, you're really seeing the top athletes performing.
Yes. Well, and also in being rewarded.
Exactly.
That's the important part, because then they don't have to worry about getting that part-time job in the off season.
Yeah.
I have to become a physical therapist. I have to do. I've got to run a coaching business, and I've got to balance my own training. I'm professional, and I can take a look at. Oh, you're going to offer me a contract for T100. Let me check a look and see what Ironman's got. And,
Yep.
There's still. We don't want to forget challenges out there with great events.
Yeah.
So this year, 7th in Chattanooga, 4th in Boulder. 2nd at Challenge Quebec, which was a new event that I heard great things about.
It was the people really got behind that event, and
Yes.
it was a great one to take part of.
Yeah.
The bike course was like flat and fast, but the run was like cobbles, twisty, turny.
Yeah.
It kind of had everything in it. It was a really nice run event, and Quebec really got behind it. It was great to be a part of.
Yeah, I had heard that. And so when you look back at your career, and we're talking World Triathlon as well, what do you look back as your best race?
I think ultimately it's still got to be the Commonwealth Games. I think it's still, it's the championship race that
Yes.
that I won, and that's still the top level for me.
What year was that?
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
2014.
Showing my age now,
So
Bob.
it's still 10 years later,
Yeah.
you're still doing this silly sport, which
Yeah.
is really fun.
I've done it since I was 8, and
Yeah.
I've loved it every day since.
Yes.
And I still love the daily life of it. I obviously love racing, and that's what I, ultimately train day in, day out to do. But I love what I do day to day.
Yes.
And that's why the last 2 years have been so hard, because my body was failing, and it wasn't allowing me to do what I love. And it took my old coach and a dear friend to give me a call and say, "Why aren't you on any start lines?" And I was like, I did get to the point where I was like, I think I've got to retire. I really think I've got to step
It got
away.
to that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was, well past the point, to be honest. My body was...
And what was going on?
Stage 3 anemic. I'd been in Red S for majority of my short course career,
Yes.
which wasn't known back then. The education wasn't there, as you said,
Right.
on nutrition.
Yep.
And it's taken a lot to get hormone levels and body just happier.
Right.
But it took this person to call me and say, "You're not done. I'm going to coach you again." And he's guided me through it. It works a lot differently. He's definitely a very strong mentor to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely grateful because he showed me that I'm not done and I don't have to stop what I love. So yeah, I'm just extremely grateful to be here and to be back on the start line, and I can see that I can progress again.
Well,
I can see
and
that
also
I can get there.
there's such a camaraderie among the men pros, the female pros, and because at the end of the day, it's you against you and you
Yeah.
against a course. Whatever Cat Matthews does, you don't control that. You can control Jodie. That's it. Which I think allows people to be friends and care. Obviously, you want to win, and you're going to do whatever you can to win. But once it's over, we can go hang out and be buddies.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
think-
is that a little different than it was for like World Triathlon?
I think you're right. I think it's definitely, it's a kind of nicer environment maybe, but I think that ultimately you haven't got the added pressure of the country on top as well,
Yeah,
and from federations,
Right.
and I think that does help. But it's definitely a nicer and more respectful environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does help because you are right. You are on your own out there,
Totally.
and you can only push the pedals as much as you can push the pedals.
Mm-hmm.
And and I've always said that whoever crosses the line first is the best person on that day,
Right.
and I can only control myself.
Right.
And if that means 10 people, 15 people, 20 people beat me on that race day, but I've controlled me and I've had the best day I could.
That's all that matters.
What else can I do?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, like I love the women's field here. I think they're all amazing athletes, and I think it's an amazing field that the World Championship have got. So it's exciting to kind of be a part of that.
So for this particular, like you said, you're excited to be here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just nice to be back on a starting line.
Yep.
Do you go into it with specific goals?
I set myself like progression goals throughout the race.
Okay.
I have never, and this was another thing that was well taught from my coach, that you never set like a position.
Right. Yeah, you can't control that.
Because you can't control anybody else. The position will take care of itself and it'll be what it will be. But I've got progression goals that I want to do throughout the race.
Mm-hmm.
But also because the standard I think has moved up so much, and it's nice to be in this position, I'm just going to race the race.
Yes.
And if that means that I blow up at the end of it, then I blow up at the end of it. I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to prove to anyone.
No.
And that's ultimately what I love to do. I love to just race the race and be not restrained by anything. So that's what I'm just really looking forward to do.
So when you win Commonwealth Games, how did that change your world? Or did it?
It didn't really change my world, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's not many people can say that they love doing what they do day to day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was a massive achievement, but then I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. I was very quick. I was too quick to move on from that success and set myself a new goal.
Okay.
Which anybody that has success, like that will be my, just make sure you stop and enjoy it.
Savor the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think we are quite short-minded in athletes, and we kind of always set this next goal. It's like, okay, I've done that, now what else do I do?
Exactly.
Instead of just stopping and enjoying
Savoring it.
Exactly.
Spending time, celebrating with the people who got you there.
Yeah, and I did a little bit of that, but I didn't do as much as what I should have.
Right.
But yeah, like I still, from that day, do what I do, and I love doing it.
Good for you. You know what's cool is you're sort of going into this race with house money. You're just like you're happy to be here. Whatever happens.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of people are like, okay, I've got to see where's Kat at, where's this product, because I've got money on the line here, and you're like, you know what? I'm just happy to be here.
I am. I'm happy to be on the start line, fit and healthy, and ready to race. And it does excite me. It excites me that how stacked this field is, and these great athletes that have been performing all year. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be racing hard. That's what I love to do.
Yeah.
I love it. And you are right. It's just going into it with no pressure.
None whatsoever. Yeah. You're going to be so loose during this race, and a lot of people are going to be stressed.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that, where you can just have that sort of surprise people, which is nice.
Yeah, but on the same hand as that, though, like these athletes have had this pressure kind of all year, and
that's
ultimately what makes great athletes is dealing with that pressure.
Yes. Well, and especially when you go to a T100 race, it's basically a world championship. Every race you go to, you finish 4th, 5th, people are like, oh, you're only 4th or 5th. You have any idea who's,
it's the best in the world.
Taylor Knibb, Ashley Gentle, Paula Findlay. It's the best in the world every week.
It's so inspirational watching the T100.
Yeah.
Because the speeds that they're doing, like the battles that they're having, they are really stepping up the bar in triathlon. And it's amazing to watch, and it makes me excited to get back to that.
And you will. Love it. Jodie, thanks so much for taking time. And thanks for sharing your helmet. That's
Thank
brand
you.
new, right?
Oh, got it today. It's absolutely beautiful.
Premiered right here on Breakfast with Bob. I love it. Jodie, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Jodie Stimpson has been our guest again. Breakfast with Bob from lovely Taupo, New Zealand. Hold on. We will be right back.